Ring the bell with authority. Welcome, friends. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Cincinnati and the beautiful Hall of Mirrors. We have another wonderful program today. Don Lothrop is here. Don is the founder of Colina, Noua. Don, we are very much interested in your presentation about your sustainable community in Romania. But first, we are going to start the meeting with the national anthem, led by Bill Stilley and accompanied by Janet Metzelar, followed by the invocation and four-way test from Kay Atkins.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, President Steve. Please join me. Dear God, we appreciate all that we have, including the challenges we face in our work and in our personal lives. Our challenges are opportunities to learn and grow in our families and in our communities. We are grateful for the urban planning professionals who bring us well-planned, sustainable, 21st century neighborhoods. The architects, engineers, and developers working together can offer people designs for a healthy environment as we experience life and work in the digital age. Being a part of Rotary International and of this club affords us opportunities to foster service above self in maintaining and improving our club, our larger community, and internationally. We work together to advance international understanding, goodwill, and peace. We are especially grateful for the fun, joys, birthdays, and laughter that we share in fellowship. Amen. Now, let us repeat the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Seats. Now, please welcome Don Keller to introduce our guests and prospective members.
Thank you, President Steve. Welcome, Rotarians and guests, to Club 17, the Rotary Club of Cincinnati. So today we have four guests with us. If you would please stand when I say your name, that would be great. First, we have Chelsea Jansen from First Commonwealth Bank, who is a guest of Esteban Calle. Second, we have Lydia Steck from Cincy Magazine, who is a guest of past President Melinda Kelly. Welcome. We have Jeff Tucker from Don Lothrop, who is a guest of President Steve King. Jeff, welcome. And last but not least, we have Philip Terry with Hammond Neal Moore, LLC, who is a guest of Vince Terry. Welcome, Phil. That's it. Thank you very much. And as always, if you have guests in the future, please bring them along. Love to see everybody. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Don. Welcome, Lydia. Welcome, Philip. Welcome, Jeff. And welcome, Chelsea. Chelsea told me in the lobby that she has just submitted her application. So thank you, Chelsea. Welcome to the club. Next, I invite Mike LaValle to the podium to share more about the Camp Allen 100-year celebration.
Thanks, President Steve. It's been a while since I've been up here to upgrade everybody. If you remember, going back several weeks, we started with going back to the beginning of Camp Allen and the history. And the last time we really talked history, Fred was up here and talked about the opening of the new camp on the what most of you know as the camp. That opened in 1982. So I'm going to bring up everything we've done since then. In 1984, just a couple years after that, we provided $14,000 in seed money for the pavilion on the new side of the camp. In 1990, we built the Fisk building, which was a kitchen addition that was nestled in between two existing cabin structures. In 1997-98, we had to breach the dam that created the old Lake Allen and drain the lake, and that's what became where the balloon rides are today in that big open field. Soon thereafter that, in the following year, we constructed the 3 ponds that are on the old side of the camp. So over there's Fisher Pond, there's Scott Pond, who were both very instrumental in making those ponds happen, and there's also Rotary Pond. And those are the areas where kids can still fish and boat and do all the things that they used to be able to do on the lake. Then in 2001, we built the pavilion on the old side of the camp, where a lot of you have seen, which is over closer to the main road. And let's see, then soon after that, we built the dock on Fisher Pond. And that was in part because we built that the year of our club's centennial. So that was in 2011. And in that year, the international president actually visited the club and talked to us that day and visited the site. So to bring you up to date, what we're celebrating August 27th is what's been happening on the new side where we've purchased a new property. So we bought that adjacent property, which you've heard about. It's 54 acres, and combined with the original 46, we now have 100 acres to call Camp Allen, and it's protecting us, if you will, for now, from the adjacent development that's been going on in a pretty hardy and bustling Claremont County area. Then we also renovated the dining hall and built a bus stop, and those things you've seen as we've progressed along the way. Those last couple of things is what we're really celebrating because it's our 100th year of operating Camp Allen. And some of you have already signed up for the party. There's flyers out front that look like this. If you've missed one or need one, Fred's right here in the middle of the room. You can raise your hand. Fred and Ken can give you one if you need one. Tells you all about it. It's August 27th. There's a fee of $45 that just covers the cost. It's a surf and turf dinner. It's an open bar, and we'll have tours of the new property. You can go see what our foundation has purchased. And then it's just going to be a good, fun party. So if you need, you can sign up with me today. You can call the office. They'll sign you up and send you an invoice through email, which hopefully a bunch of you who have already signed up have received. So we hope to see you all there. It's going to be a great time. Thank you.
Mike LaValle, thank you again for sharing that update about Camp Allen. 100 years, 100-year celebration for 100 acres. It is going to be a great party. This is not a fundraiser. This is a party. I looked at the RSVP list. There are a lot of names on that list. For this club, it's quite a head start. But anybody who's not yet on the list, you're invited. We'd like to see you there out on August 27th. You've gotten an email from Christy in the office that you can sign up through that email, or any of the folks who you saw stand up today. So look forward to seeing you out there on August 27th. Announcements. This week's meeting is sponsored by Rotarian Jane Burkhead. Thank you for your support, Jane. Give her a round of applause. Birthdays. Please wish a happy birthday to these members. August 2nd, John Pepper. I think Jim Nyhard said he saw John Pepper sign in books. You saw David, not John. Well, John, happy birthday. August 4th, today we've had Jim Young and Patsy Bond. Happy birthday, Jim and Patsy. August 5th, Ed Mathis, 40 under 40. Good job, Ed. Happy birthday. August 6th, Bob Wilson and Lori Quinlivan. August 7th, Cheryl Parker. Happy birthday to everyone. Split the pot. Split the pot. Winner gets $46 today, and the accumulating pot is up to $310. Remember, club members draw for the accumulating pot. Don, would you do me the honors of pulling a winning ticket, please? Thank you, sir. The last four digits are 3288. Do we have a winner? 3288, Jim Nyhard. Great, congratulations. You're looking for the Queen of Hearts. Eight of diamonds. Well, just that close. Just that close. All right. Corporate Member Roundtable. Corporate Member Roundtable is busy planning for Rotary Year Imagine Rotary. We would like to encourage any club members from our corporate membership companies to consider joining the roundtable. The Corporate Member Roundtable Events Committee is engaged in planning informational panels and presentations to inspire and encourage you in your professional career. Members of the Corporate Member Roundtable are welcome to join our events committee and help plan exciting sessions for all Rotary members of Club 17. Contact any one of the chairs, Kelly Collison, Cheryl Parker, or Bob Will for more information. Thank you, Corporate Member Roundtable. Office assistants. The office is looking for a few helpful hands each Thursday around noon. There are several small tasks that would help to ensure we have a great meeting. This could include distributing flyers or logging the laptop into the weekly Zoom meeting. Hello, Zoom participants. Let Sarah or Christy know if you're open to helping out on the early crew. Thank you for your help. Rotary Roadshow on August 18th. The meeting on Thursday, August 18th, is now a Rotary Roadshow. We will not be at the Hilton that day. The off-site meeting will be held at the national headquarters of the Disabled American Veterans in Erlanger, Kentucky. We will tour the facility, the Honor Garden, and the Visitor Center. The buffet lunch will be catered by Jack's. Make a note, we will not be at the Hilton on August 18th. That's it for the announcements. So at this point, I would like to welcome Jane Burkhead to the podium to introduce our speaker.
If I have salad in my teeth, it's because I haven't been able to floss yet. Okay, hi. I met Don Lothrop back in, he said 2005, I thought it was before that, when he and his family moved back from California, or moved to Cincinnati from California as his wife wanted to be closer to her family at home. Don is a Penn State grad, Harvard MBA, and he began his career in several venture capital firms, the last one being Delphi Capital, which is a healthcare venture capital firm. And in 2007, he became interested in, and I'm not sure Romania, he's going to tell us how he got to that Cluj, Romania, but he started going over to Cluj, Romania and developed a community that's totally sustainable based on technology. And it's an incredible story. So I'm gonna give him all the time he wants. So if you would take the honor and welcome Don Lothrop, it would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane, for the introduction, and thanks, Kay, for the prayers for urban planning all around the world. I think what I'm going to do is show a 5-minute video that explains what we're doing in Romania. And before I start, my partner, Jeff Tucker, is in the back here, so there's 2 of us if you want to ask questions. But we'll show you what Jeff and I are building in Romania, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit about why. So if you could turn and watch the video screen.
These mornings are incredible. Such a beautiful place. When we started Colina Noua, everybody said we were crazy. Nobody gave us a chance. Why would you build beautiful houses with green energy, zero waste, and so much care for detail 15 miles from the city? Why not in the city? We as a culture are so focused on what the city has to offer that we forget how our grandparents lived. And they lived long and fulfilling lives, connected with one another and with nature. Well, now we are sold out and have people on the waiting list. Colina Noua is a special place. I live here with my wife, Christina, and with my 7-year-old son, Robert. I was one of the guys saying that we are crazy for doing this. It was hard for me to envision such a place because this is something unique. It's almost like a fairy tale. A place where the air you breathe is pure, where the food you eat is organic, and where you have access to one of the most innovative schools in the world. Yes, an innovative school in the middle of Colina Noua. This school is about learning how to thrive in life, creating a learning culture in every home, and where the world is our classroom. Here in Colina, everything seems so simple. Your kids just walk to the school where their colleagues are also their neighbors. So this leads to interesting dynamics. It's normal to see Robert coming to our place after school with his colleagues. You don't have to schedule playtime with other parents. Everything happens spontaneously. In Colina, you can also walk 200 yards and pick some tomatoes from the organic farm whenever you want. This is an incredible experience, connecting with the food we are eating. And for the kids to take lessons on the farm and see how a real beanstalk grows transforms their thinking and appetite. They become in love with healthy food very easily. As you know, I'm very passionate about hiking. We have a lot of wild forests and valleys around, and I wanted the community to join in and experience all this. So we created a hiking club. We have Easy Mondays, Cardio Thursdays, and Forest Fridays. A little bit for everybody. We go out and chat, pick up mushrooms, berries, and all that, and discover the beautiful places around us. But each neighbor has their passions. So we already have a running club, a book club, and even a pancake lovers club. The community is alive and thriving. Another central point about living here is the local community in these villages. It is so diverse. From a river buffalo herdsman to a ceramist or a painter, from organic food to cultural experiences. and they all have fascinating stories to share when you visit them. Mr. Buancă is one of them. He has 1,200 sheep and is doing the best polenta stew in the whole wide world. We went hiking one day and ended up in his backyard for a feast. Now that's what I call a unique experience. We want to support and raise the local communities. It's something precious that we cherish. We like to say that Colina Noua is the perfect place to raise our children. And it really is. And we can't wait to continue what we started and open the door for other families to join in and experience this life. We are also a source of inspiration for many developing projects in Romania because we are true to our purpose, to create a better way to live.
So, what I want to do is talk more about why Jeff and I do this. And let me start here with Cincinnati is the easiest place to describe Colina Noua because 100 years ago, at the cusp of the Industrial Revolution, Mary Emery had this crazy idea to build Marymount, 10 miles away. And the reason, as I understand it, is because all the factories that were being built in downtown Cincinnati were just smoking people out. Air pollution was unregulated, and this was a response to the Industrial Revolution. The other part of Marymount's response to the Industrial Revolution was people leaving farms to come live in Cincinnati, in factories. In these they call it the Industrial Revolution because it wasn't just economic, it was social. And we're living in a similar revolutionary time, and I had the benefit of being part of it for 2 decades in Silicon Valley. And it's as much of a social revolution as it is as an economic revolution, and in Colina Noua is a response to that, partly because people don't need to get in their car at 7:30 every morning and come home every day at 4:30. We can work from home, and we can build places for people, not cars. Let me go to my clicker. People ask me, how did you end up in Romania? And the answer is I was at a dinner in San Francisco and I heard about an orphanage in Oradea, Romania. I heard about a story of forgiveness in Romania. And I read Charles Colson's book, The Body, and I heard that Christians voluntarily stood in front of machine guns and died for democracy. And I said, I don't believe any of that. I'm going to go to Romania. I went, and on my first trip I had a terrorism incident. And 14 of the CEOs of companies that I founded in Menlo Park asked if they could come with me on subsequent trips, and we did a variety of charitable projects for the first 3 years in Romania. But the other thing that was going on in my mind is that I was 42. I had profited by building a healthcare system that drove overutilization in everything, and was looking for purpose and meaning in what I did in my work life. I went to my Harvard Business School 30th reunion 2 years ago, and this was an article in the Boston Globe when we graduated, and it was interesting. We were urged to serve the public, not ourselves. And there's 2 realities I learned from my venture capital career, is that it is incumbent upon private investment to solve the issues of our kids' generation. It's not the government's job, it's not charity's job, it's private investment. And in order to do that, we have to invest with purpose. If we simply invest for greed, which is how I lived my whole life, we are not leaving our kids a better world than the one our parents left us. And the second thing that I learned in Silicon Valley is that American private investment is the most powerful force in the world. The effect of Google and Facebook and Amazon and eBay and PayPal, it's unbelievable, and it's global. But the private investments that are really transformative take more than 15 years. We did Microsoft, and Microsoft wasn't much of a stock for the first 15 years, between 15 and 20. And so the mindset behind Colina Noua was there is a better way to live in the post-industrial age. It's going to take more than 15 years to make it happen, but it has a purpose. And it has a return because we bought our land for almost nothing. We began buying land when no one wanted it. So a different way to look at financial return is not building an apartment and getting a 3-year IRR. Why don't you build a new city and make 50 times your money on the land you bought? Just a little bit about Romania and Cluj. We're in the Transylvanian part of Romania. There's 20 to 30,000 software programmers in Cluj, Romania. You can see Transylvania itself is often compared to Tuscany. But what made Cluj and Romania interesting was it had joined NATO, it had joined the European Union, there was lots of external accountability at eliminating corruption. The city of Cluj itself was becoming a boom economy, and there are people from all over the world that go to live in Cluj. Not just Romanians in technology, and many of whom now work from home. And the last thing about Romania is that there's land, we bought land that had almost no carbon footprint. No contamination of the bacteria in the soil, the alkalinity of the water, and the pH levels are normal, and there's almost no particulate matters in the air. And so any particulate matters less than 2.5 microns never leave your lungs. And that's how we measure air pollution. And so we had a beautiful new canvas to create from. So the problem that we were solving in Cluj is the city of Cluj, the urban planning is basically evil communist social re-engineering where they move people from farms into these big blocks in the middle of downtown. And so when the communism ended in 1990, people, to escape the blocks, built this suburb of 50,000 people outside Cluj, but you can see the urban planning is a mess. And so our opportunity in terms of servicing the local market was to do something better than what you see up on that slide, which is really, really bad urban planning. One of the things that you can kind of make out on the slide is the land in Romania is all in long, narrow strips. So you can see apartment blocks that might be a quarter mile long, but it's just on really narrow strips with nowhere to park. So this is the problem we're trying to solve for the Romanian people. I like this image. This comes from a Swedish architect. But what Cluj looks like in the city is on the left, where there's very small places for people to walk. Everything is buildings and roads. And it's very rare to see a child in the city of Cluj without a parent holding their hand, because they're that close to getting hit by a car. This is a canvas of land that we began buying in 2007. This is where Colina, Noua was today. When we began buying the land back then, nobody had any interest. Most of the landowners' kids had left Romania to work in Italy, Spain, Germany, and France. So the problem we solved from 2006 to 2010 was aggregating land. And this is a picture of our land, and you can see all the long, narrow strips. And so we had to buy strip by strip. The deeds predated World War II. Many times we had to contact next of kin all around the world, but we solved one of the urban planning conundrums, because when you put all the strips together, you can begin to plan something thoughtfully. So that's what we did from 2007 to 2010. This is the master plan of Colina, Noua. It is over 400 acres of land. It includes a commercial center, 800 homes, and we are surrounded probably by 10 to 20,000 acres of pasture land, forest, and environmental land. So when you live at Colina, Noua, and you saw the people hiking on all that land there, there's really an unlimited amount of space for kids to run around and for people to get off their chairs and away from their computers and walk. The inspiration, interestingly, for Colina, Noua to me was I went to Romania to find people who had survived communism and to hear about the political tyranny, to see the poverty, and of course to discover the lack of medicine. What was interesting is that people in these villages live longer than my dad and my grandpa. So I said, how is it that you can have political tyranny, poverty, and access to almost no medicine and live longer than the people in Menlo Park, California? And the answer is in what is the foundation of Colina, Noua, and we'll talk a little about that a little more. But here it is right here. I have to attribute this, so I don't plagiarize it. There's a woman named Edith Hamilton who wrote a book called The Greek Way in 1942, kind of at the height of bad news in World War II. And she talked about reclaiming human values that were the silent sanctuaries and the permanent possession of humanity. And I've excerpted that a little bit. We are reclaiming time-tested values that are the permanent possession of humanity that should never change because we're human. Number one is we want to breathe clean air. Number two is that we want to eat real food, healthy food. We know where it came from. We know how it's been handled. Number three is that we want to give our kids safe places where they can run around with their friends, not have their entire lives planned by play dates by parents. I grew up in College Hill. My dad was a P&G person, and we organized all our pickup baseball games. And we'd pick teams, and we'd argue if they were unfair, and we'd argue whether you were out or safe. But man, I raised my kids in Menlo Park, California. We just drove them places. They had no skills in how to arbitrate, organize. They simply depended on their parents. And I fed them chicken nuggets 4 times a week, which we found out later about the steroids and the antibiotics. So we're recreating these places for kids to run around. We believe, for most of mankind, we have neighbors because we need to depend on each other. And so we don't have fences between our homes. Another thing is that we don't have a gate into our community from the villages around us. We think we can learn from each other. You saw some of the farmers there. We view all of us as part of a single community. And the last thing, and probably the most important thing at Colina Noua, is our school. Is that we are building an education system. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Focus on helping every individual kid achieve their unique potential, and to make that a safe walk or bike ride from home. A little bit about our school. We just our new headmaster just moved from Argentina here in the St. Andrew Scott School in Argentina. But the pedagogy of the school is much more learning by doing and much more student-centered than teacher-centered. And so the 4 pillars of our pedagogy, one is expeditionary learning, which is you learn by doing. A lot of our doing happens outdoors, but it can happen indoors. Thrive Time is where kids get curated content online to meet them on where they are in whatever subject that they're taking. High Performance Crews would be a typical classroom environment with 1 teacher for 12 kids, and there's a focus on relationship building. And then Elders is basically students teaching younger students. And so our school right now just goes from 3 years old up to 8. And so most of what we do now is this expeditionary learning, but this year we'll be integrating Thrive Time because all of our 3rd graders are at a different place in math. So they can learn a little bit more at their own pace. In terms of the background, the people, you heard a little bit about my background. We've got 7 or 8 Americans involved, but Jeff Tucker, who's here with me, has Romanian ancestry. He and his dad built most of Bright, Indiana, and we're really trying to bring the best of American experience in real estate develop to mentor and support our Romanian team. Another unique part about Colina Noua are the people who've invested in it. And I'm a big believer that when we do things together, our chances to make transformative impact on our societies are greater. And so here's a list of some of the CEOs who have invested in Colina Noua. A number of them are from Cincinnati. Mitch Barnes is from Cincinnati. Craig Avery's from Lexington. And we even have some people who are really involved in the project from different fields. General Ben Hodges, who was the commander of the United States Army, came here and spoke with me. But when he retired as the head of U.S. Army Europe, he said, I need to be part of your team because we can't have any influence in the world without the 3rd leg of the stool. 1 is political, 2nd is military, and the 3rd is private investment. We have no busy defending a country if Americans won't invest in it because it's just not going to work. So we've got a great group of people, and as baby boomers, I like to say, we did a really good job in building prosperity across the world in our lifetime. I mean, income levels, which stayed like this for most of mankind, have just soared post-World War II. The extreme poverty rate in the world has gone from 44, I think, to like 9 or 10%. So we've done a good job in some ways, but we have forgotten how to live. And what Colina Noua is an attempt to reclaim these values of building communities for people as opposed to cars. So that, in a nutshell, is what Jeff and I and a bunch of other people are doing in Romania. And as Benny said at the end of the video, we want to be a model for similar communities. And it's beautiful to see kids run to school on their bike, not have so that's it. Questions?
You would repeat the question for the people on Zoom.
Okay. Oh. We do not have any places of worship. We do not. Second question is, do we have any places of worship? And the answer is no, we don't have any places of worship. But this wouldn't have happened if my life hadn't been transformed by God when I was 42 years old. And that's, if you Google, you'll see me tell the story at Crossroads. In terms of the HOA, Jeff Tucker, who's built 3 HOAs, is basically helping our Romanian partner Silviu get our HOA off the ground. So we do have an HOA. And we've done some innovative things where we have written the HOA covenants and deeds, covenants into the property deeds, which has never happened before in Romania. So if you don't pay your dues or you violate it, we haven't had to do it, but create a lien on people's property. But our HOA covenants are just a code of common sense. I'll just go in order so I don't.
Romania shares a border with Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And with all of the issues and conflict and aggression going on there, has Romania seen a large influx of Ukrainian refugees? Is that having any impact on your community? And being proactive, what are you all doing in this situation?
So Romania shares a border that's 250 to 300 miles with Ukraine. So it's the northern part of Romania. I think there's been about 1 million Ukrainian refugees who've left Ukraine through Romania. 80% of them just carry on into Western Europe. We do have some Ukrainian women with their kids living at Colina, Noua. Now the number of people returning to Ukraine is 3 times as many as the number of people leaving Ukraine. So there's a huge movement back. What very few people know is that Rob Portman knows, because I've gotten to meet Rob, who's speaking here next week in Washington. We have 4 military bases, America does, in Romania. And so in terms of how we project power, Romania is the eastern edge of the Western world. And so Romania and Poland are probably the biggest beneficiaries of this bad behavior by Russia, because they're the 2 biggest countries, the most populous countries, and there's just an inflow of American military investment into Romania. And the more attention America plays to any young democracy, the more accountability exists, and the faster these countries move into building stronger democratic institutions. At the beginning of the war, when Putin made nuclear threats, it scared a lot of Romanians, because their history, if there's been a fork in the road for Romania, it's always gone bad, because it's this island of gold and force that the Romans came to first. It's always been, Hitler got most of his oil from Romania, so they've always been pillaged by big countries because of their resources. But I don't think there's any anxiety about nuclear a nuclear issue anymore, and you know, it's impossible for us in America to understand the effects of deep systemic corruption on a system. I mean, we can't imagine American soldiers pilfering the parts to Black Hawk helicopters and selling them in the black market, so we can't fly our own helicopters. But the corruption that exists in all the Russian economy, but in the Russian military, from what Ben Hodges said, is we may see the Russian army walking home in 3 weeks because they don't have the parts to drive their tanks back. So nobody knows ultimately how it's going to end in Ukraine, but there isn't anywhere near the anxiety now that there was back in March or April. The closest, like Odessa, which is pretty close to Romania, it would be an issue if the Russians got to Odessa, but again, I know this from my friend Ben Hodges, the Russian Navy wants no part of this battle at all. So the Russians are going to fight this, with their army, and so the short answer is it was a big worry in March and April. It's now just a sad reality.
What is the plan for scalability for future such communities, and when can I move there?
Yeah. Well, again, Jeff's back there, so you can ask him. The challenge for Jeff and his team is we know who we want to live there. We want young families who take out a mortgage, a €200,000 to €250,000 mortgage. That's who we want in our community. And prices have gone up so much. Some of it's temporary, but prices are so much. Is Jeff and his team are basically having to design and re-engineer homes so that we can take cost out, so that we can attract young families. And so I think he's got it sorted out now. Actually, we're going to go work after this. He's going to show me the answer. But the goal is to start selling homes in the next phase here by the end of the year. But affordability is a big deal. Because, and even one of the great things, if you look at this, there's a lot of videos about it. We have Romanians who've moved back Romania for one reason, for Colina, Noua. We have a homeowner who lived in another Romanian city who had 190 software programmers on his team. It's in the autonomous driving unit of Siemens. And he moved to Cluj for Colina, Noua. I think of the 28 homeowners, only 10 moved from another city or country. So Ben Davies just moved from Buenos Aires with his wife and daughter on Monday.
Could you speak to the sustainability of the homes in Colina and what, are they geothermal heated? I saw like solar panels in some of the pictures.
Jeff, would you answer one question? Could you answer that one? Jeff said he didn't want to speak, but he knows more answers than me.
So the sustainability aspect, every house has solar panels. Every house has their solar panels wired back into the electrical grid. So they are, when they're not using the electric to heat or cool their house, it's going back into the electric grid and turn their meters backwards, so they're saving money. We have a zero waste facility. So every house has 4 or 5 trash cans where they separate glass, cardboard, biodegradable stuff. And we separate all that, and we've got a composter on site to deal with biodegradable trash. I won't say all, most of the materials that are used in the homes are sustainable. We have, this is something interesting I've learned, particularly in Eastern Europe. Eastern Europeans hate moving air. We're all used to forced air heating and cooling systems here. They cannot stand the idea of air moving. Plus, it's not the most efficient way to heat and cool. So all of these homes have in-floor radiant heating, and they also have in-ceiling radiant cooling. So that's really cutting edge, and they heat and cool remarkably efficiently. So that's the short of that.
The other part of it is if you look at sustainability like the United Nations does with their 17 Sustainable Development Goals, they include things like building rural infrastructure, which we've had to build all our infrastructure for the first phase of development. Hopefully that will change in the next phase. It's offering people a legal wage so they actually qualify for health care. Because in most rural areas, people don't have a legal wage, therefore they don't have a health care benefit. It's creating international partnerships is another one. That's number 17. We've got 42 American families invested. So we actually decided to have measurable outcomes on 12 of the UN's SDGs because we were just doing it. But the core, to me, of sustainability is just not taking more from the earth than you leave your kids. That's what the people in the village taught us. And deal with your own garbage. Don't just put your garbage in a tube or a truck and make it somebody else's garbage, because it's got to go somewhere. And so the zero waste thing for me has been enlightening, because as Jeff said, there's 4 things that buckets I can put things in where they get reused, and then the rest is my waste, and how much food I waste. And for the people who live at Colina, Noua, it's just really healthy to not complain about what's wrong in the world, to feel like you're doing your part. And so the zero waste thing and some of the other things are driven by our homeowners.
So how many people presently live there, and how many people are you planning on scaling up to?
Well, we have 28 homes, and we plan on, ultimately, when it's all done, having 700 to 800 residential units. The density will shrink to maybe smaller homes, villas. We'll actually have a commercial center. My dream is to get Facebook or Google or Twitter or somebody else whose one of their big business issues is employee retention, to actually put their European or their Romanian headquarters out there. Almost every American company has a presence in Romania for software development, because people aren't going to quit when you don't need to get in your car to live.
So how do you choose the people, or how are they selected? To move into the village?
Well, they just buy a house.
They just buy a house, okay.
Yeah.
And what about health care? Do you have health care there?
No, we don't. That's a really good question.
Okay,
That's
thank
a
you.
really good question. Yeah, because the one thing where somebody could say you haven't created the most perfect place in the world to live is that if you needed emergency surgery, I'd get on a helicopter and I'd go to Vienna. I wouldn't do it in the state system in Romania. So that's the one gap. If it weren't for that gap, I could say there's no healthier place in the world to live than Colina, Noua.
What about climate change and things like that? Are you, as far as sustainability is concerned, are you redirecting rainwater, like with rain gardens? Do you redirect rainwater or collect rainwater? For the water system? Is it like compostable toilets? Is it I'm just curious about the plumbing,
I'll
water system.
Prepare to give the mic back to Jeff.
Okay.
But if you look on the picture right up there, to the right behind the homes, like you see the home in the front with a big solar panel, next you'll see a big dark ditch. Craig Avery, who's an engineer in Lexington, Kentucky, who actually got the contract to rebuild New Orleans after Katrina, was the one who basically took little creeks and widened and deepened them so that there's enough catchment capacity to prevent any flooding. So the first climate action thing we did, and if you're going to follow the rules, you have to prepare for a 100-year flood. Most people don't follow those rules. So we spent $250,000 with that creek that you can see there and another one, so that we've got the catchment capacity to prevent flooding. But that's one aspect of climate change. Is there anything else, Jeff, you would say to her question?
We don't have compostable toilets, but we do own our own sewer utility that is state-of-the-art. We own our own water utility. We do collect all the rainwater and treat it before it goes back into creeks. So in that regards, we are collecting rainwater, but not directing it back for use. It goes back to the creek.
Jane?
How far is it from Cluj?
From the city center of Cluj, it's 15 miles. From the edge of Cluj, it's 10. Marymount's is a great metric. And when we started buying the land, the road hadn't been improved. The roads have widened, been improved. So part of this whole thing involved patience. Is you buy land really cheap when no one wants it, and then you hold on. And we just got lucky. How I ended up in Cluj is a different story, but we got lucky that we got involved in the second largest city and really the boom city in Romania.
You had said that you wanted to be a model community. I'm wondering if you've had any interest from other countries, other organizations to replicate what you've done.
What we have a lot of, I mean, there's times when like there's 200 people out at Colina, Noua on a weekend just to look at it. And so, like, one of the things is that you can't park your car on the sidewalks at Colina, Noua.
Do you have a question? Oh, yeah.
And in the city, everyone parks their car on sidewalks. So we get people who come out there who go back to their community, into their mayor, into their city council. And so no parking on sidewalks. Or in Romania, you can build almost whatever you want. So when you buy a home in Cluj, you have no idea what you're going to look at outside your window. So to create consistency in the facades, in the shapes of the building as the city permits. So I would say there are some projects that have copied us in the brand. But what's even better is that Romanians now know what to demand of their local city councils. Yeah. 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 Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, in our case, I showed you the picture there. If you were to drive into Cluj and out to, when you fly into Cluj, you see this beautiful green rolling landscape of Transylvania. By the way, that's where William Penn was when he came up with the Slovenia in Pennsylvania, because William Penn was there. But you fly in and you see this beautiful green landscape, and then you go to the airport and you get into these densely packed cities of all these cement blocks. And then in the post-communist area, people would just buy a piece of land and build whatever they want. So you're just driving, and there's a sprawl, but as that sprawl goes out of the city, no one builds a school. So I wouldn't we can't really compare it. Simply just move out of the city, and then they drive into the city to send their kid to school. So what we're trying to do at Colina, Noua is become just another village. We're in a communa called the Vulteren Communa, which is how local villages are organized. And there's 5 villages in the communa of Vulteren. And we want to be the 6th village. It's great to see the poor kids in these villages on the rollerblades and the bikes, because their streets aren't paved. And they come on our streets and ride their rollerblades and bikes. And we're very intentional about, we have 1 or 2 homeowners that want us to put up gates. And the answer to that's hell no.
I have a question. Do you have cisterns over there to collect water? And also, will there be a model here in Ohio to show the world bring the example here?
The purpose in my life, and I think I can speak for Jeff, is this is a 20-year project for me, is to create this place. And the reality is, I grew up in Germany. You couldn't build this in the United States or Germany, or certainly not in California, because you can't get 400 acres of land cheap. And you can't get land that hasn't got all this road infrastructure built everywhere. Yeah, so that's one of the things I like about it is this is a competitive advantage that Romania has over Germany, where you can create something here. If you like it, you have to move there. You can't do this outside Frankfurt. which is where I grew up as a kid, with Frankfurt, West Germany.
As the next phases of this roll out, you say you can get up to you want to dream about 800 and the commercial center coming. I know right now you said the air is fresh, and with that many vehicles moving in, do you think that over time that could possibly change with that amount of density happening?
Yeah, for sure. The more people that populate Romania, the more air pollution you're going to have. We do have. Do we have people who have electric cars, Jeff? I know we have electric chargers. Yeah. So the nice thing about being true to our brand, which is we want young families, almost all who work in tech, is they love this technology. And they love the HVAC systems that we have because it's super computer oriented. And so I think we will have more electric cars than most, but it's inevitable that, I don't think we'll ever getting up to having high particulate matters in the air out there.
I know that getting around in Western Europe by rail is so easy. I don't know how Romania is. The question would be, does this community have easy access to any rail system?
Yeah, the rail system is horrible. It's slower now than it was in 1980. Yeah, the public investment in Romania. I mean, a good way to think about Romania, Prince Charles built 12 homes there. It is a beautiful place with a beautiful Latin culture. Fun, spontaneous, laughable, and a beautiful country. Its weakness is just the competency of public administration in Romania. And so all the EU money is there to build trains. And, people who follow the politics of Eastern Europe can look, Romania and Hungary are a great contrast. Partly because Transylvania was part of Hungary for 400 years prior to World War I, so they're real neighbors and there's stuff there. But Hungary has a heinously corrupt leader, and it's very easy to find his corruption. But boy, he's sucking every penny you can out of the EU fund programs to build infrastructure, and so the average Hungarian, he's delivering. The Romanians have not done a good job of using all this free EU infrastructure money, and the trains haven't improved one bit since the 80s.
Stay here for just a minute. I'll just give you a brief thank you.
Yeah.
You can stay standing, Don. Don, thank you very much for that tremendously inspiring story. Thank you for making a place for people and not cars, and for sharing your why. In this particular Rotary year, Don, the theme of the year is Imagine Rotary. And the idea behind that is that you're making dreams a reality. And clearly, you are making a dream a distinct reality in Romania and changing the world. And as a token of our appreciation, we wanted to offer you this Cincinnati Rotary coin. And on one side, it says the Rotary Club of Cincinnati. On the other side, it has the four-way test, and it's kind of our small way of making a vision of a better world. And in addition, in honor of your presentation here today, we're going to make a donation to the End Polio Now campaign. That's a 4-decade vision of eradicating polio from the planet. And to date, there are only 14 cases of wild polio left in the world, and so we're this close. And we just want to give you another hearty round of applause and thank you for your presentation today. Committee meetings this week, there are 2. Rotary Due Days Committee, Salon H and I on the 4th floor. World Affairs Committee, Boardroom 4 on the mezzanine. Next week, Senator Rob Portman will address our club. This could be a great opportunity to bring a guest or a prospective member. The office tells me that the RSVPs are open as of today. You can reserve and make a reservation for your guest. I would suggest you get those invitations out early. Let's pack the house for the senator next week. Until then, make it a great week. Meeting adjourned.